all that unsustainable work that you're practicing and showing off and telling everyone about and writing home about and taking pictures of and all of that stuff leads to nothing. I do believe that a lot of answers to most of society's issues is through really challenging physical work.
All right, James. This is part two. Facts and fallacies. We ended last week saying like we could probably just turn this show into that, and maybe we will. This is part two. We're not
Maybe it'll be a
promising that.
portion, maybe it'll be a portion of every show.
Yeah, man. Okay, so last week we talked about VO2 max. We talked about HIIT training, and we talked about CGM, so continuous glucose monitoring. Uh,
Mm,
this week, this week we're going to talk about three more topics. Um,
cool.
let's get right into it. Topic number one. I want to get your take on seed oils. I
Mm.
want to talk about seed oils, the goods, the bads, the indifferences, um, and where your thoughts are when it comes to the elimination of having them in your diet, how it differs from other things that we would just generally tell people like maybe you shouldn't put that in your body, or how it's the same. I have no idea where we're going to go with this. My question to you is, do you believe that seed oils, nothing on its own is doing anything, but do you think that they are a big contributor of chronic disease in the in this country specifically?
No. Um, but I do, it's always in comparison. I guess this is number four, but it's always in comparison to the first three. Um, I'll give it a little bit more. I'm not sure how we did that before, but I'll give it a little bit more of an area for
Yeah.
a possibility. Do you know what I'm saying? As opposed to like giving a little bit for VO2 max or giving a little bit for HIT. I'll give it a little bit here. But as far as the wording of it, it becomes a fallacy with the word driving. Um, because you can't really, especially in this area, you can't really drive, um, or you can't really hit the point so clearly for it to be a fact, like because food and what people consume and the complexities around that, and then connecting to the outcomes of that for people's health and longevity, or which is the opposite of disease. It's so, like, you can't connect 2 points, So if it became a broader statement, um, so people's choices around choosing stuff that's not real food could be driving chronic disease. Now you see how you're moving me a little bit closer to something that could be factual, or a claim that I could at least be in the room with smarter people discussing it in the nutrition, biochemistry, medicine realm, to talk about those things. Um, yeah. And, for the, jumping directly to, well, how do people deal with that today on a coach level or client level? You really would just want to become a little bit more educated, perhaps, as opposed to just listening to the language around this particular thing that's a food stuff is driving chronic disease. You could say, well, what is exactly is that thing that we're talking about? And then when you see that, again, like principles, remember we were talking about challenging contractions and aerobic contractions. When you land on and you get comfortable with principles, like in relation to this context, we're talking about real food, right? So, you know, it's arguable, but anything beyond the seed and how a human consumes that seed in its most natural form is what I'm going to call beyond real food. So it's not real food anymore. So do you see how that's how the human, or the person who's just trying to become quote unquote healthier, can hear me and then have something to go on, as an answer to this thing. So James, instead of you just saying this is a fallacy, why don't you tell me something that's going to be helpful? Well, I just did. understand and educate yourself on what is real food and use that as a principle base, just like you did with the challenging contractions. And now you can see you can answer most all of your future questions coming forward with regards to nutrition.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know, like, when I was thinking about this, James, I was like, I think we're kinda going down the same route. I was like, yeah, like, this makes sense, but there's, like, a virtue behind it, right? You know what I mean by that? It's like there's a there's a bigger question behind it, or maybe a bigger answer behind, is this one of the causes that's driving chronic disease? It's like, yeah, and like thousands of other things as well, right? It's not the
Mhm.
boogeyman in the closet where we're like, if we could only get rid of this one thing, chronic
Yeah.
disease will decline at such a rapid rate. But to your point, it's like, what's the virtue behind it? It's like, yeah, it's not real food. Maybe if you just like fill your diet with real foods, that will have an impact on chronic disease. I think where a lot of people are going right now with this is that the intention is really good, but they're not recognizing the virtue behind the intention. So, for example, I'm going to do absolutely everything that I can do. I'm going to download this app. I'm going to make sure that this app tells me where I can and where I can't eat based on this one factor of seed oils. Are seed oils present in the foods? But what they're not thinking about is, am I seeing the bigger picture?
Mhm.
Am I eating avocado oil in like a highly processed food that is very, very far removed from a real food? And it's like the intention behind that is like, well, no, I have butter on this thing, but it's like, bro, you're still eating a highly processed fake food. Maybe you should think about that as well. Or they're like, everything else in my life is a disaster from a nutrition standpoint and even a lifestyle standpoint, but I don't eat seed oils, right? So it's like I
Mhm.
don't move, I don't get sun, I drink alcohol, I do this, I do that, but I stay away from seed oils, right? So I think that it's being seen as like a boogeyman right now. I think, and I know I'm not sure why, right? Like there's some politically driven stuff inside of this as well. But the funniest thing, right? It's like, steak and shake. We now fry our foods in ghee. It's like, but you're still eating fried foods. Like, are we missing the boat here? Yeah, so I think this is an interesting one because to your point, it's like I think you were saying like I'll give this one a little bit more. I think the reason why you're giving it more is because the virtue that it sits inside of, there's truth to it. But the statement that you see on the screen, seed oils are driving chronic disease. It's like, not so fast. Not many things are driving chronic disease. This could be one of thousands. Why are we picking this one out?
Yeah, you could be right. It could be possible that I am choosing that because of the virtue behind it, or what I called for the previous three intention. Right. That's why I dislike the previous three because I knew the intentions behind it were to create irresponsible, dependent people. Right,
Yep.
and that was my, that was my thing. So you could be right on that. I see this very similar to VO2 max. That seed oils and VO2 max, they do exist, but they don't, it doesn't really mean much, they're just things, and so I see it like VO2 max in that it's you're entering into a category when you talk about seed oils, just like you are with VO2 max, where you could spend 20 years of your life researching this and calling yourself a doctor of biochemistry and nutrition and having a YouTube channel with 2 million followers, and all you're talking about is this, but all you're doing is basically just doing it for entertainment purposes to talk about a specific thing that has no real weight in it with regards to principles, right? It's just flashy and entertaining and modern. So that's why it's just like VO2 Max, right? Why it's also connected to VO2 Max is that, again, it goes back to that certainty thing. People want answers and they want to fix, right? And so if someone says who's got the white jacket or is, buffed and has got a YouTube channel with, lots of followers and lots of muscles, they're going to say, well, that's why I'm listening to this person because they have that influence of that particular thing, right? And it's gonna be the answer to all my questions that I have with regards to what should I eat and going forward. What can we pick on? That's the reason. And instead, I still see it as a lot of shirking where people just don't want to take responsibility. Right? They'll blame the seed oil. And then when you kind of push them and push them and push them and push them, 45 minutes later, they're stuck in a corner and they're crying, right? With their thumb in their mouth saying, yeah, I just choose these things because I have no idea. I have no knowledge. And then that's what we can do with coach and client. It's also interesting that I want to make mention that no one wants to, well, not no one, that's a strong word, but you got to remember that if you want to be tough, and you want to be resilient, and we can call them a bunch of different words, you want to be vital, that comes from hard work and real food, right? And I should say hard thinking. That's a separate thing. Maybe it'll be part of your fallacies list that'll come up over time, but a lot more challenging to get into that psychological realm. But the resilience comes from that. Now, the reason why I think this is important for this particular thing is that I find that from all my experience that I saw with people who came into me and like fell into this trap, not specifically from me, but fell into this cultural trap of like, and you can imagine I've been doing it since the mid 90s. So, it used to be coconut oil and like specific kinds of foods. The list goes on and on and on. These are the less resilient people. It's funny.
Mm.
It's so interesting that they're the least resilient people. They can't handle challenging conversations, right? They can't handle challenging work that they have to take responsibility for and then find a way to recover from that. And then um, they seem to be all of a sudden, really sensitive to anything that's slightly outside of the real food paradigm. So I'm just making a point of it's kind of interesting that these are the least resilient people that actually do require a lot of hard work, and they do require a real food diet, a real food diet as much as possible. So anyways, I just want to make mention of that
What
regards
would you
to
yeah, that's no, that's too good to just fly by. So I have a I have a question on that, or I want your thought on something. What would be or what was your prescription to those individuals that they couldn't have the challenging conversation, they couldn't recover from challenging work, and if they had anything outside of their super precise diet, they would just crumble? Like, what is the
yeah.
what would you do with that person?
Yeah, I think on the general term, the first thing that came to mind is that I would always say to myself, well, what am I really good at? Like, what are the things that I can control that I think could be impactful for this people? Now, the reason why I preempt this answer with that is because other people may have different tricks up their sleeve, right? Some people may be like profound psychological conversationalists, right?
Mm,
Some other people may be profound nutrition manipulators, right? Um, I could implement physical challenges. So that's the approach that I would say to them, indirectly that a lot of the things that you're searching for that you want to get to, it's not about the seed oil or about the food that I'm going to prescribe. The way there is through really hard workouts that I'm going to prescribe. And I'll give myself credit. I knew how to make things challenging. It's just what you gain from experience, right? I see you smirking. I want to question that smirk after our show. But I knew how to I knew how to create these challenges, right? Stuff that would like change people's behaviors because I knew how to create the right dose response based upon my experience of assessing and diagnosing people as to what their capabilities were for that particular day. I think I was really good at that. So, to answer your question, I would basically give physical challenges as the way through because I do still believe, and I want to be careful of how my words land on this. I do believe that a lot of answers to most of society's issues is through really challenging physical work and a discipline and an experience with that. Now, I don't mean suffering. I just mean challenging, it's the top thing. Like we have three things, like Carl, you may not know this, but we have three things in my house that all my whole family sees, and they're basically templated in multiple different ways. We have it on our table on this plate that we serve things on, but it's always there front and center. It says, challenge the body, eat real food, and learn new things. That's the staple of what I try to bleed for my family and the kind of things that I want my family to see every day. But what's the first thing? Challenge the body, right? That's the first thing. So I think that to go back on, and the only reason why I mentioned a personal antidote on that, or personal thing on that, is that I really do believe in it. I believe in it in terms of actionable things that are as part of my daily behaviors and what I expect from those around me. So I think that would be the answer, really. And that's the prescription I would give. Physical challenges really do change people.
Hard work, real food, hard thinking. I like that. Um, I smirked when you were talking about the physical challenges because I was I was like biking yesterday, and my when I do like long aerobic work, my brain just goes so many directions, man. Like I just think about things, like random things.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
found myself yesterday thinking about function being will, and even the time before function being will. I was thinking about those blogs
Mm.
and like how like how stupid challenging some of the work was. And I'm like, some of that work was like over the top challenging, where I was like, just, I was thinking through like the process of like designing a challenging piece of work for an individual or a group of individuals. And I'm like, I was just thinking through what goes into that,
Yeah.
like, well,
Yeah.
they're gonna experience this and then it's gonna be followed up with that, and then they're gonna go right into that. And I'm gonna give them this much rest or no rest or whatever the case was. So, and I don't know why my head was there yesterday, but I smirked when you said the challenging work thing because I was just thinking about that
It was
yesterday.
top of mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for that reminder.
Okay. Give me a better statement here. Seed oils are driving chronic disease. How would you replace this?
Oh, like to create a more factual, positive tone for
Uh,
like an answer.
yeah, better. Yeah, just a better statement, more factual statement.
Well, I think I gave it earlier, but correct me if I'm wrong in terms of the direction you want me to go with that. But I think that if your diet is full of an abundance of food that's not real, then you have you have a higher incidence of getting into a lack of vitality state.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So I don't know if this was intentional or not, but you didn't mention chronic disease in that statement.
Yeah, because you know, I because I want to try as best as possible, I guess, to change people's language around that.
Mm.
Because when I see chronic disease up, it immediately captures people because, again, it's just fear mongering from elite intellectuals who wear the white jackets and are influential. Um, they're just trying. It's just a power grab of knowledge. That's what they're trying to do. So that's why I use the word vitality, right? That's why
Yeah.
I use the word, an ideal state that I'd like people to go towards, right? That's why I choose that over CD.
Yeah. The reason why I mention that is because whenever you see statements like this, it is. I don't want to blanket and say 100% of the time, but 95 to 99% of the time, it actually is fear mongering.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's like this is what's going to happen to you, right?
yeah,
Instead of like, hey, do you just want to like feel really good? Yeah, I mean, it's like, and then now we get into
yeah,
like, psychology, and it's like what grabs people's attention or what sells or whatever the case is. But yeah, man, that's a big piece of it is you don't want this to happen, so consider doing this thing instead of like, hey, what don't you just want to like live a great life? You know what I mean? Do these things
yeah.
if you want to live a better life.
Okay.
Okay. Thoughts on this one? GLP-1s are the answer to obesity.
Yeah, this one makes me sad, actually. Um, it's almost as it's almost as it's almost as bad as it's almost as bad in my emotions as the hit thing, like you bringing up the hit thing and you saying, "Oh, it's still around, it's still a thing." Like I really did mean it when I said it. It just shows that my entire project is has been useless for in a large number. If my project was to educate more or educate slightly something more than 1,000 people, it's just complete waste. So that's why I feel sad about this. Is that I feel like it was the entire project was useless. It also shows you that fitness is so far down from culture now, so far downstream from culture, um that it's yeah, because we would joke about it, whenever there was an interwebs in the 90s that, yeah, oh, what does the client want next? Oh, next thing you know, they're going to want an appetite suppressant diet pill. And I'll cut, and then we thought that the ephedrine caffeine aspirin stack was the answer to that. And then, it burnt everyone's thyroids and made people crazy. So then we tried to find other ways to do it. And then we implemented it in our drinks and our day to day foods. And, oh, we're not addicted to caffeine, blah, blah, blah. So it all went that way. Yeah. And here we land at this, like, very powerful, situation. Powerful meaning that the power behind it is ridiculously strong, because you have these ideal folks in society with suits and white jackets, and politicians and entertainers and elite sport personalities, etc., that are bought and paid for by these large pharmaceutical companies, um, and are freely just discussing this as if there's nothing horribly intentionally wrong with this. They're just saying, like, oh, this is just it. This is just what you do. So it's so far down the dystopic, Wally, Gattaca, uh, um, you know, uh, Brave New World. Like, it's so far down there that there's no turning back. So I guess it would be proof of my point I made last week or the week before, that I'm so short on the hope for America. I'm so short on that. I'm so short on the hope for my version of what vitality is for young kids and their future generation. Um So yeah, I didn't even I guess I didn't even discuss the actual thing at play here, but it just that's what I have to say about it. It's just I'm just sad, basically, that that humans today, are so far removed from realizing that it does take willful physical activity and challenges, along with your choices to eat real food as much as possible, inside of this, and you got to construct it, right? You got to construct that to happen, because it doesn't just happen in order to live today. You actually have to construct that, right? Um, and that's the way that you go about being as vital as possible, right? But it's the content, the conversation around, not being over fat and deconditioned, and how to work away from that. That should start with a conversation on, well, what's your history and knowledge over eating real food, and what's your history and knowledge over doing physical challenges. That's the starting conversation, not what's the litany of choices that I can get online now that will suppress my appetite. And, you know, the dirty part of it, possibly cause major metabolic issues in 20 years. And it's going to drop your lean mass more so than your fat mass. Oh, well, I'll back up and just talk to the simple things. there's just this stuff that you could inject yourself with. Um, so I guess that's this is a effing lie, and it's a sad lie.
Yeah, let's not even let's spend a couple more minutes on this one, but let's not actually go into the drug itself. Let's not go into the drug and the populations that are taking the drug and their intentions or what we believe their intentions are. Let's just stay on the let's stay on the conversation around the behavior. Let's talk about the behavior side of this because I think that's what's actually really interesting. Um, this is I think this is a really good example of, I don't know, let's call it like renting results, if that makes sense to you, James. It's like renting results. I'm going to do this thing by any means necessary. And I know, I know many people that have opted in on this. And out of the many people that I know, I've spoken to personally to a handful of them, and there's a lot to be found out about this thing, right? It's fairly new in the general population. It's like, I need to lose a few pounds, I'm going to take this thing. It's been around a much longer period of time for diabetics and things like that. But it's fairly new in the uh to the I don't even know how to classify them, to the avatar that's just like, I want to lose some weight and I'd rather take this route than the other routes. So when you start getting into the behavior side of this thing, James, and you start getting into just our, we've all heard of like the pleasure pain principle, right? And it's like, intuitively, humans, we move toward pleasure and we move away from pain. Okay. So there's things sometimes that get introduced to us or that are in front of our faces that are uh, they drive that behavior of like going away from the pain that it might take to get somewhere and finding the shortcut to get there. You know what I mean? Because when we say things like, do hard work, eat real food, take personal responsibility, those things are painful for a lot of people because they are so far removed from ever doing any of those things, that to wrap their heads around, I need to adopt this behavior in their brains. And in reality, it's going to be a painful process. It's going to be hard, right? But that's the point, right? The point is to do something hard. The point is, I know that you very specifically said, or you stayed away from that word suffering. But I'm actually going to say, I actually do think that it's good that people suffer, right? That they have bouts of suffering. And when I say suffering, I don't mean we try to kill people and they're on the floor and they're, they can't move tomorrow and stuff like that. When I say suffering, I mean like, this thing is so hard, it takes every bit of you to do this thing. And the physical challenge or the tough conversation might actually not take you over the edge, but the thought of it takes you over the edge, right? So that's what I mean by suffering. So from a behavior standpoint, this is just another thing that is introduced to the general population that's an option, where it's like, you take this pill or you take that pill. This pill
Mhm.
being like the I don't even want to call it the easy route, right? But it is the easier route to get to whatever that goal is for this individual in this situation, to lose the next 20 pounds. So it's so tempting, dude, right? It's tempting because it's just like path A and path B. If I take path A, James's path, man, that's gonna take a long time. There's gonna be some suffering and it's gonna be really hard. If I take path B, I had I know, like, I've heard about the side effects and maybe there's some like paralysis of my stomach. Maybe I'm gonna lose a bunch of muscle mass. Maybe I'm gonna have metabolic issues, maybe not even in 20 years, but in one, right? Like there's gonna be a lot of things that could happen, but man, it's so tempting just to get to that end point, to lose those 20 pounds. And what I don't think these people really have in the masses is someone on the other side in the white coat that's offering the drug, that's giving them all of their options, right? That's talking through all of their options. That's saying like, "Hey, this is what this thing is going to look like, and here are going to be the benefits and the disbenefits of taking this thing." Versus here's some other things that you can do. You're not in dire need. You're not going to die in the next 3 months if you don't lose 20 pounds. So let's adopt some behaviors that get you to lose those 20 pounds in 12 months and maybe not 12 weeks, right? So from a behavior standpoint, I think this becomes really, really interesting. And if people can take the red pill, I don't even know, red pill, black pill, I don't know. Take the pill that's like, well, I'm just going to opt to do some really hard work and to eat real food and to have those tough conversations and so on and so forth and suffer, right? Man, some really, really good things. We know that, right? Like some really good things come out of doing challenging things and seeing your way to the other side. So where's your head at on the behavior side of this thing, James?
Yeah, I see it as a through line, right? Meaning since my brain started thinking about the fitness universe and these generalized things that are happening in the fitness universe and what we call, physical expression and how people go about doing it. Um, yeah, I just see it as meaning there's always been something in there around the behaviors connected to weight loss, and we've always strived to try to find a way. I would say since the advent of our life coaching course, or what I used to do personally with people, that I tried to put into a system where you would have this back and forth across the table of these through lines, right? For 30 years, it's been that way for me and my business and for my coaches, of realizing that it's gotten, realizing that you need to have this space across the table where you can tell that person, listen, I know you've been told this, but 98% of everyone that goes after that minus 20 pounds are not a better person, nor are they more fulfilled when they get 20 pounds lost. Now, Lisa, tell me why that's the case. Why do you think that's the case? Right? And then, of course, as you gain experience over time, you could, when you say that, Lisa really listens because you don't just have three other clients, right? So when I used to sit down in 2014 and have that discussion with someone, um, there's some weight behind it, right? Where I would say those things because it's important. And this is so that's all I see is that, and I'm not working away from your direct question, but I want whoever's listening here, which I'm assume will be someone within the area of coach or client, the client who's looking for a little bit more, or the coach who's just wants to have some ideas shared of like how to go about do this. You got to go back to the intentions. That's generally the way to go about working your way through these kind of things. What I call this through line. Today it's GLP-1. In the late 90s, it was, the fat burning stacks. In the early 2000s, it was, caloric manipulation protocols, right? In the late 2000s, it was fasting and different kinds of stuff. In the mid 2012 to 2018, it was something else. So you can see, but they're all the same. They're all the same. And what I'm saying is, like, do not enter into these conversations, just like you were just doing, right? We don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about, why is this? Why are you striving for this? What are you actually trying to get out of this whole thing, right? And it doesn't always come down to this, but you may, have work to do on your behalf as a coach, because that person may throw over something to you that's something like, I'm really not happy with myself. I'm not happy with my husband. I'm not happy with my family life. I'm not happy with my work. I'm not happy with my belief system. I'm not happy with the way I see, things going on around me. Do you know what I'm saying? That's a lot for a coach to take back. But here's the thing. You could play the other game, right? Of like, well, maybe we can have some diet manipulation. Let's do a 6-week protocol of like removing these foods, and let's see what happens at the end of 6 weeks, right? And you're still chasing this idea, like they're not going to be they're not going to view themselves as a better person in 6 weeks,
Yeah.
which is the thing they're trying to go after. But it's called GLP-1 today. You know what I'm saying? So that's the through line in all the behaviors in fitness that I've seen for 30 years. is there's something more inside of it. They're running from something, or they're scared shitless to face what they don't like about themselves, or they really are so deep, Carl. Like I gave you a couple examples, right? But that really was the case for a lot of people. It's what was the word I used to describe? It's I don't know what the word was. It's not coming to me, but it was like they were standing at the abyss. You know, they're looking in and they're really hurt. That's basically what it is. And I didn't have the power as a coach to give them ways to come out. Some cases it worked, but it's just a lot. So it's just human, to your point, to choose stuff that's a little easier because the suffering that you're describing, that I just described, to get out of that, I will say it's sweeter on the other side, but dude, it's a
Mhm.
lot of work because people are really, really built down now digitally and lacking physicality, and it's just dark.
Yeah. And, to your point on the hard work, real food, hard thinking, hard conversations, the coach that you were just speaking to, um, where you talked about like the 6 weeks of like the elimination protocol or whatever the case is, caloric manipulation. Um, that coach that's listening also has to be willing to have the hard conversation with that
Oh,
client.
yeah.
And dude, like sometimes the hard conversation is just like it's it's a big word sometimes, challenge, right? Like some people are like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, what do you mean? Like you want me to like you want me to like start an argument with the person?" It's like, no, no, no. Sometimes challenging someone is just challenging their own thinking, right? To
Mhm.
allow them the space and opportunity to challenge their own thinking. And sometimes, dude, like it's as simple as just continuing to ask questions around things. And it's not like a manipulation on the coach's side. It's like you want to know why they're saying what they're saying. And honestly, like most people don't even know why they're saying what they're saying. So if I were, if you were consulting with me right now, James, and I told you, I wanted to do something and you just said, "Oh, that's super interesting. Like, just tell me why. Like, what's the end game there?" And then I gave you an end game and you're like, "Oh, that's a really interesting end game. Why do you want to see yourself in that end game?" And then and now I'm like, I might get stuck, dude. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't know, man. Like, and then that's where my wheels start to turn. So that is you challenging me with like 2 words, right? So we're not saying like put on your therapist hat and like try to mentally manipulate people. Sometimes you just have to ask them like, tell me more, man. Tell me more. Why? Why do you want it? What's the intention behind that? Going back to that word intention. And man, that is unbelievably powerful because all you did was you challenged that person to think about why they think they need to end up where they think they need to end up. And some
Mhm.
really cool things can happen there. Instead of saying, "Oh yeah, cool, let's do the 6-week thing and I'll do this for you and I'll shape it and I'll do that." And then in 4 weeks they're not actually compliant to the thing and then you're now doing the next 6-week thing and it's like it's never going to stop, right? Until you challenge them and just ask them like, "Well, why? What is the real intention behind this thing?" And sometimes it's not that easy, and sometimes it's not gonna happen in that single conversation. But for the coach listening, you have to be willing to have that tough conversation as well. And
Yeah.
sometimes being the person on the other side challenging is exactly what that person might need.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, so many examples I could give, that I'm grateful for that are still in my mind. But also, I can't end off this point on number 2 today in GLP-1 without saying that, um, so I don't want coaches to hesitate on having the hard conversations, but you gotta be prepared, um, to help that person through. You know what I'm saying? We're not just throwing bombs over the net, you know? So you gotta be ready. You gotta be ready because I just think about, a couple of examples where, it was just this is generalized, but it was just under the context of females, vanity, and attraction and intimacy. Okay. That was the generalized thing around it. And as we enter into those areas all underneath it, which, fat burning supplements, birth control, cosmetics, etc., it's all inside of that. The like when, we would have the eye to eye, like, oh yeah, for sure, yeah, you get that. But then when they leave and they get out there, like society and the people around them, and I mean, it's very, very, very difficult. It's very difficult, right? Because they are faced with this, like, yeah, again, I can't describe it. It's this horror. That's what they're faced with. It's horror, that they really are not good with themselves, right? And they're not good where they are right now. But it's much easier to still play that game. It's much easier. It's just really difficult. So that's why I can't end it without mentioning that I'm really empathetic to that coach who's in that position, and I just want to give you a warning, right? That be careful, that you're ready to work with people, because
Yeah.
they got a lot of work to do, and they need someone to support them through that. You know.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's a you know
Yeah.
I'm glad we went there on this one, because I do
Yeah.
miss those conversations with coaches and discussing those, and I do miss those times. But those are great. I'm so grateful for the people that were willing to go through those conversations with me.
I just want to say one more thing before we move to the last one. I think something that's super important for all of us to understand is none of us have the power or ability to fix anything. Like, you're not fixing anyone's issues. I'm not fixing anyone's issues. The coach listening isn't fixing anyone's issues. And I'll just leave it at that. You know what I mean? Because like I think the hesitation is, I don't know if I can fix it, so do I even go there? The goal isn't to fix it. The very last thing that
That's
you
true.
said when you the very last thing that you said when you close that out, James, is you need to have the tools and the ability to support them.
Hmm.
Support sometimes is just bringing awareness, challenging intention, having the conversation, right? But it's not all like, well, let me give you the prescription to fix this thing. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like
Yeah.
it's way more, people are way more complicated and complex than that. Way more
Hmm.
complex than that.
Hmm.
So sometimes I think the coach doesn't go there, James, because they don't think they have the ability to fix it.
Hmm.
I think you just lose that, dude. Like, you have to
That's
lose
true.
that. Like, yeah, no, like, we're not fixing anything. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
leave it on that one.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Um, all right, what do we think about this one?
He's
Unsus-
setting me up.
Unsustainable activities lead to
Yeah.
unsustainable
This
behavior.
is a fact. This is a proven fact.
Let's go.
Finally, one on the board. Bing.
This is one of my favorite ones,
Man.
James. I love this one because we can talk
Yeah.
about this for days inside of fitness, and then we can stop talking about fitness and we can talk about this for days to our children,
Yeah.
about life, man. You
Yeah.
know? So yeah, where's your head at on this one, man?
Yeah. It's there. Meaning, yeah, we could, and it's not that we could, but we did. Like I did. I talked about this for a long period of time. Um, and really it was a whole bunch of words that, I kept minimizing and minimizing and minimizing, minimizing, because I was exhausted, honestly, of doing the back and forth with the CrossFit coach, which I did for so many years, right? Or let's just call it the high intensity fitness believers, right? Who were the people and the coaches who were pushing it, right? So I just got so exhausted, where I would, in the end, like I did on the last call, I think, or the last show, say that, um, you know, it's addictive, and that's why people get addicted to it. But it's no reflection of what we want in life, which is consistency, right? So you see, we're talking the same thing, and now people are like, ah, screw you. And that's, and I brought it down to small terminology, right? Is that all that unsustainable work that you're practicing and showing off and telling everyone about and writing home about and taking pictures of and all of that stuff leads to nothing. It leads to nothing, right? It leads to a lesser you. It leads to dry vaginas and limp dicks. That's what it leads to. And then people would be like, "Oh, just a second now. What was that? Just a second, huh? Huh?" So I would say whatever would come in there, using body parts or whatever, that would make people be like, no, there's no way, because the facade was pulled over my head. I read all these journals, I read all these books that said that was the answer. And listen, they're like, and I'm doing it every day, and man, do I feel like excited, and I'm like just jazzed, you know. So they couldn't get it when I would say, well, just keep trying it, just keep going after, trying to get really good at unsustainable work. So if someone, metaphorically tries to get really good at unsustainable work, what are you doing in that practice? You're learning how to be unsustainable. So when we bring that over to your point on psychological or lifestyle conversations, it does apply, right? It's hardly in any context where you want to learn how to be really good at unsustainable things, right? But you could see how the public was lied to on this, because it was blended, as you know, Carl, with variety, especially in the physical expression realm, right? So you just need variety in there. Variety is the spice of life, and you need variety of all these different kinds of unsustainable activities, because it's going to short term, as we said with the VO2 max thing, it's going to lead to all of these unbelievable things. Just look at these people; they have 8 packs and sexual organs that don't work, but they have 8 packs and you know, uh, yeah, they have 8 packs. Both sexes have bigger traps. It's like, what? Okay, awesome. Is that what we're going after? I don't want to go down that route, but yeah, so this is a factual statement that people should really think that it's not just into your point, not into the physical expression realm. It's not just that, right? It's the opposite of trying to be disciplined and consistent,
Yeah.
right? And learning about things. And you lose this love of being consistent and really getting to know something like hard contractions and long walking, um, because you're just so caught up in novelty and attention seeking and variety. And it's taken all we've turned into is creative managers. We're just
Yeah.
create new things and imagine new things in this fantasy media, you know? So yeah, it's not just in the physical realm. It's a it's a truth.
Yeah. I'm gonna use it's another big word that I used earlier. This is a virtue, actually.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Because unsustainability is it will, as I said, it will always beat the vitality program, and beat, as I said, needs to be measured and clarified, but because it's really sexy. It's kind of cool. I mean, who doesn't like to show everyone that they're suffering? Look how hard I'm working. Um, yeah, so yeah, it's built into that.
Yeah. And then the reason why I use that word, James, is, the definition of a virtue is a good habit that moves the person toward perfection. The perfection, they'll never get there, but it's a good habit that moves them toward it, right?
Hmm.
This is one
Hmm.
of those things, man. Like this is and when I said like
So it's a
the reason
perceived
why
virtue.
what's that?
It's a perceived virtue then, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, what isn't? Yeah, what isn't? Um, I
Well,
guess
there
well, let
could
me ask you,
be there could be
what do you
some
mean by that?
virtues. There could be some. I was thinking of Socrates, right? There could
Yeah.
be some virtues No, really. I mean, we're going to put everything in the bucket here.
Mhm.
So there are some virtues that people could work towards, integrity and honor and truth, you know, um, yeah, and other areas. But for the person believing that this is a virtue, I don't, I want to say that it's not a virtue. It's a perceived virtue on their, because they think that this is going to lead to the ultimate good for them. That's how
Yeah.
I meant.
Let me go further on that, right? Because I
Okay.
think that I'm like, to use your term, I'm thinking about the through lines and what this actually means in someone's lives, right? Um, let's talk about something like in fitness. I think we all understand that, right? Like you just explained that. But let's talk about how someone deals with their finances or their money, or their budget,
Mhm.
right? It's like, you
Okay.
know, this plays really, really well
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
example, right? Let's take this to someone that believes that they need to live in like this perpetual hustle culture, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to lead to long term sustained success.
Yeah.
Okay. We can again take it to, the person that lives a life of like cramming, right? Whether it's in academics or in life, where it's like, I wait to the last minute to do absolutely everything in my life, right? That's unsustainable.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but the interesting thing is when we look at this and we think through like, okay, like, what does this mean? Is this a good thing or a bad thing? I would actually argue that it's just the thing, right? It's like a it's like a it's a principle, right? But it doesn't mean that you should never do unsustainable things. But I think that you should realize that doing unsustainable things leads to unsustainable behaviors. So that's not, and I don't know if you're with me on this, James, but when
Yeah.
I look at this, I'm like, oh, it's not it's not to demonize. It's just a principle, right?
Mhm.
As long as you understand it and you know it, you do with it what you will, right? Um, but I think that when I go to like virtue, right? Like what I'm taking out of that, it's like you should only do the things that are good and that you should sustain over a long period of time, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that doing unsustainable things in your life in this area and that area, if you understand the virtue is a bad thing, but you don't have the wool over your eyes thinking that it's going to lead to the ultimate good, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. You explained that clearly.
Um, yeah, this is a good one. I like this one a lot. That's
Mhm.
it for today, man. I wanted to end it on the unsustainable activities leading to unsustainable behaviors.
Thank you for that. A little bit
Yeah,
of
absolutely. It's like I threw a softball. I was throwing a softball. Can I get your advice on one thing? You've been giving like homework at the end
hmm.
of all of these, or things to think about. Let's not give homework on GLP-1s or seed oils today. Um, can you elaborate a little bit on this principle and how you think this principle should play in a coach's coaching practice?
Yeah, well, I guess the coach first has to sit in a room for a while, hours, and think about the strategy they're going to use as they leave the room to go out and talk to the people that are surrounding them, right? Because it's very easy for you and I to talk about it and say, oh, here's homework and this is implementation strategies. But the coach has to like own it and understand it and get it first. That's what I would say. So, and if that's not clear to them, so some people are listening, they're like, well, I'm not really sure. I'm just new to this. I'm not really sure what you're talking about. Then ask us questions. We'll be, we got lots of information and stuff to clarify that. And maybe we can do it on another extended podcast in order to increase that education. But so they've got to like be good with that first before they want to say, because, and the reason why that's important is that you've got to get, and that's why I call it a strategy, because it is a strategy. It's almost a political style strategy in which you're then going to come out of that room, right? This metaphorical situation of contemplation for hours, right? You're going to come out of that room and you're going to need to know with each client, your own story around unsustainable activities and the knowledge you've gained around that, and then their own, stories around unsustainability and their lives around that. So that's what I would ask. coaches to do, I guess, to kind of move the needle, so to speak, on this particular topic is to do that. Say, you know, where could I sit first as a coach and say, what's my thoughts on this? Is this, do I believe this is a true principle and a true statement, and a fact perhaps? Um, and where have I practiced it so I know it to be true? And then say, oh, because now I'm going to go to your clients and be like, oh my gosh, like I gave them, because you're going to have a conversation with Peter, right? And you're going to be like, Peter, listen, I just came to think about these things, and you know what? When you did like those 5 intervals that we did, that was really cool. And Peter's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I remember those were horrible. They're so painful. And you're gonna make a statement like, for you to do the work, and to not get the same score for the whole 5, and you got worse each time, I want to spend a little time on that, right? Because I'm kind of questioning what our goals are and my intentions for that, and I want to let you know that I'm starting to I'm starting to think that there's a better way through the overall goal of like you being a more vital person, and it doesn't come with doing those unsustainable things, because I'm fearful that if we pile those on and you love the licking the cortisol and the adrenaline that you got from that, that it may move us away from that overall vital goal. So that's where, and I just try to give a particular conversation example that a coach could use, but hear me out. You first got to get good in your seat with it. And the reason why I say that, Carl, because I know there's a lot of people that don't take time to do that contemplation first, and they miss the whole thing, that they've been offering this in a group scenario or an online training program, or they were just lazy or didn't have the time, and they just pumped it out to a ton of people, right? To a ton of people. So you got to know where you sit in your beliefs and your actions for this particular work before you want to go forward, and then go piece by piece, person by person of the atonement trip.
Oh boy. All right. That's good, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate it, James. We will see
Thanks again, man.
everyone. We'll see everyone next week.
Okay. Take care.